Unit 9. Trade. Recording 9.1.
Perhaps you could summarise for our listeners the points you've made so far, Ian. You started by telling us what free trade is.
Right. I defined it as a situation in which goods come into and out of a country without any controls or taxes. Countries which truly believe in free trade try to liberalise their trade. That's to say, they take away barriers to trade. They remove things which stop people trading freely. They have open borders and few controls of goods at customs.
Recording 9.2.
OK, then you gave several examples of barriers to trade.
Yes, I said there are two main barriers, tariffs and subsidies. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods so that the imports cannot compete so well against domestic products. Subsidies are money paid to domestic producers so that they can sell their goods more cheaply than foreign competitors. Tariffs and subsidies are barriers to trade because when people are given a choice, generally they will buy the cheapest product.
You mentioned other barriers, less important ones perhaps.
I talked about quotas, which limit the quantity of a product which can be imported, and I discussed other restrictions on trade, such as expensive licenses for importers, which add greatly to costs, and regulations relating to documents which a company must have to export its goods to certain countries. The documents can be very complicated and difficult to complete, so they slow down trading.
Recording 9.3.
I asked you if free trade was always a good thing.
And I answered, in principle, yes, it's a good thing. It's beneficial to countries.
Why?
Countries which open their markets usually have a policy of deregulation. That's to say, they free their companies to compete in markets without government control or subsidies. Because of this, consumers in free trade areas are offered a wider range of high-quality products at lower prices. People in those areas can move to the most productive parts of the economy and get better jobs with higher wages or salaries. OK?
So why do so many countries protect their industries and not allow free markets?
I gave 3 reasons, if you remember. Firstly, some people say, why should we practice free trade if other nations compete unfairly? For example, dumping is fairly common in international trade. When companies dump goods in overseas markets, they sell goods at very low prices, usually for less than it costs the company to produce the goods. Companies can usually only do that when they're heavily subsidized by their governments. Secondly, many people believe that strategic industries must be protected. These are industries that are very important to the economy: steel, power, communications, and so on. In the United States, many Americans think that the steel industry should be protected against cheap imports from Brazil and other countries. If the US depends too much on foreign-made steel, they argue, this could be bad in a time of war. Finally, some say that in developing countries, industries need to be protected until they're strong enough to compete in world markets. This is the infant industry argument. Certain industries have to be protected until they can stand on their own feet, as it were. My final point was that throughout the world there is a trend towards liberalising trade and removing trade barriers. The most successful economies tend to have open markets, and most of their industries have been deregulated.
Recording 9.4.
If I order 5,000 boxes of tea, what discount will you offer us?
On 5,000, nothing. But if you buy 10,000 boxes, then we'll offer you 10%.
OK, I'll think about that. And tell me, if we placed a very large order, say 15,000 boxes, would you be able to dispatch immediately?
We can normally guarantee to dispatch a large order within 2 weeks. But if you order at a peak time, like just before Christmas, it will be impossible to deliver that quickly.
I take it your price includes insurance.
Actually, no. Usually you'd be responsible for that. But if the order were really large, that would be negotiable, I'm sure.
What about payment?
To be honest, we'd prefer cash on delivery, as this is our first contact with you. If you were a regular customer, we would offer you 30 days credit, maybe even a little more.
That's all right. I quite understand.
Look, how about having some lunch now and continuing later this afternoon? Then we could meet for an evening meal.
Yes, let's continue after lunch. If I had more time, I would love to have dinner with you, but unfortunately my flight leaves at 7 tonight.
Recording 9.5.
When you go into a negotiation, do you always expect to win?
I guess the honest answer to that is I always have a clear expectation of what I expect to achieve, and I guess I would like to always win. Let me illustrate that for you. Something that was sort of shared with me very early in my career was the mnemonic LIM, and that's like, intend, must. What would I like to do? What would I intend to do? And what must I do? And this is probably well illustrated by a recent contract that we negotiated in the UK with a major ledger company. And I guess our like was we would like to win the business there and then in the negotiation on that day. I guess our intend was that we must leave that group thinking we are a very professional and competent outfit who can best meet their needs. And I guess our must was we must have done enough to keep the dialogue open and ensure that our competitor didn't win the business on that day. So the short answer is you don't always win. I always want to win, but I don't always expect to win, but I certainly expect to deliver the objective that we went in to achieve.
Recording 9.6.
Could you give me some tips for negotiating?
Yes, I think everybody has their own tips, but these are things that have worked for myself and the people I've worked with. And it's more around avoiding classic errors. And I guess the first one is to identify who the decision maker is. I've lost count of the occasions at every level, from first line salesman through to board director, board to board negotiations, where I've seen fantastic presentations, superb dialogue, and the person that's been sitting across the table, so to speak, is not the decision maker. So that's the first tip. Make sure you know who you're talking to. The second one is that all salesmen, if they're good salesmen, tend to be very enthusiastic about what they're selling. That could be a product or a service or even a social occasion, but it's all selling at the end of the day. And in their enthusiasm, they focus on their need rather than the buyer's need. So for example, in our own case, I've seen on many occasions people basically go straight to the point, we're here to sell you Coca-Cola. It's the world's #1 brand, you must want it. What they haven't done is establish the buyer's need. So for example, the buyer's need may be in a grocery store that they want to supply the world's #1 brand to encourage consumers to come in and purchase their range of products. The manager of a ball bearing factory might want a vending machine because if he supplies a free or discounted refreshment service, it keeps his union employees happy. So the important thing is to understand the buyer's need. Now, it's not impossible to sell without establishing that need, but it tends to mean you'll never have a long-term relationship. So, for example, again, the workplace example, I could come in, bang, sell you a Coca-Cola vending machine, pay you maybe a small royalty. Because I never established your need, if another soft drink supplier walks through the door and just offers you more money, you will probably switch. Whereas if we'd established the fact that all you were interested in was offering a service and you wanted it to be as hassle-free as possible, we could have tailored our offering. So I think that's very important. My favourite one, and I'm probably in danger of doing it myself now, is once you've made the sale, shut up. I think it's very important. Close the sale, reinforce the buyer's decision. Everybody likes to feel they've made a good decision, and then leave.
Recording 9.7. Extract 1.
OK, what do we want to get out of this meeting with Eastern Fabrics?
I think our main aim should be to get a better deal on prices. I've been checking up on Eastern Fabrics. They've just built a new factory in China. They need to keep it working to full capacity. They'll be keen to get our business, so they'll lower their prices if we play our cards right.
Right. Let's try to get 10% off their list prices.
Agreed.
Extract 2.
Can you tell us a little about your customers' needs and their buying habits? You know, what colours they like, what sizes are most popular, and what your main sales outlets are, that sort of thing.
Extract 3.
If you give us a discount on our first order, say 10%, we can accept the end of May as a delivery date. We'd like to have the goods earlier, but we understand this would be difficult for you.
A 10% discount? That's more than we usually offer new customers. But it might be possible, especially if we can deliver some of the shirts early in June.
Well, July and August are our peak selling months, so that would probably be okay.
Extract 4.
How about if we send the first consignment by air to make sure the goods arrive on time, and we'll send the rest by sea as soon as possible?
Sounds like a good idea to me. As long as we get the first consignment by the end of May, we'll be happy.
I can guarantee delivery by that date. OK?
Extract 5.
Normally we supply 3 colours only, black, blue and red, but with a variety of designs, of course. If you wanted the T-shirt in other colours...
What? You mean if we ordered other colours, the shirts would be more expensive?
Exactly. We'd have to charge a little more.
Extract 6.
Good. We agree on price, quantity, discounts, and let's see, method of transport. I'll send you an email confirming everything. Let me know if there are any problems.
Extract 7.
OK. I think we've covered everything. If there are any other points, I'll email you.
Great. That was a very good meeting. We covered a lot of ground. What time shall I meet you for dinner tonight?